across the heart of Cowboys country. It's your opportunity to ask questions to Cowboys insider Miggy Spagnola. This is Silver Star Nation Interactive.
Who would have thought about a month ago the Cowboys would be sitting at 8-5 and just one win away from an NFC East divisional title? Hard to believe that after they started 3-5 on the year. Welcome to the Silver Star Nation Interactive Show, everyone. I'm Ben Creighton. Again, like every single week, this is your show, Cowboys fans. This is your opportunity to ask our Cowboys insider, Miggy Spagnola, any questions that you have about the Cowboys. Obviously, a lot to talk about here with the Cowboys winning 5 straight, including a big win on Sunday against their NFC East divisional rival in the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm being told that we still don't have Miggy on the other end in Frisco. So let's break down this game just really quickly. Obviously, a big story, was that fourth quarter and that overtime period. Went back and forth between the Cowboys offense and the Philadelphia Eagles offense. And how about Amari Cooper in this one? 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter, and of course that unbelievable touchdown catch in that overtime period to seal the game. He has really made a difference for this Cowboys offense since they acquired him from the Oakland Raiders. Also, Dak Prescott finishing with 455 yards passing, 3 TDs. Did kind of struggle in those first 3 quarters, though, with those 2 interceptions and that fumble. But like I mentioned, really shined in that fourth quarter and in that overtime period. And the defense also was great throughout the first 3 quarters, kind of struggled in that fourth quarter, giving up 17 to the Eagles in that fourth quarter period. Okay. I'm being told that we do finally have Miggy Spagnola in Frisco. He joins us now here on the Silver Star Nation Interactive Show. Miggy, welcome back to the show. I'm sure things got to be very exciting right now down in Frisco with this 5-game winning streak. Did you think that the Cowboys would be in this position right now about a month ago when they started 3-5?
Well, I don't know if it was going to be a 5-game winning streak, but I just thought that they were better than 3-5. Just the talent they had on their team and how closely they lost a couple of those games. If you think about it, they lose 1 in overtime to Houston, at Houston, and now we see how good Houston is. And that game at Washington when they were kicking the field goal to tie it up after the snap infraction, believe it or not, the tying field goal hit the upright and bounced out. So they were very close to being 5-3 instead of 3-5. So I just thought in my mind this was a young team and it had an opportunity to grow before our very eyes. Now, how fast they were going to grow, I wasn't sure. But I think everybody missed the point on how young this team was coming into this season.
All right, Miggy, let's get right to the questions. Obviously, a lot to talk about with that big win on Sunday. I mentioned Dak Prescott just a second ago as we get to our first question from Sergio from Brazil. He asked, hello from Brazil, Miggy, what kind of work can be done by Prescott to prevent those silly fumbles almost every game? I have but can't accept the interceptions, but lack of care with ball handling and lack of pocket awareness, he simply cannot accept. Can training improve that?
Well, I think that they work on ball security every day of practice. And I think you just have to understand who Dak is. He's a young quarterback. I think he's got to learn that, he can't make something out of every play. But again, think about this. Why is he losing the football? It's not because he's running, nilly-willy around with the ball out there, right? He's getting hit from, all areas because of the protection breakdowns. So some of it's on him. I get it. But someone's on the rest of the team. Guys have to get open, and the offensive line has to block. I find it highly amusing, and he's not the first one to ask questions about what Dak can't do. The guy ended up completing 42 of 54 passes for 455 yards. Let that sink in. 3 touchdowns. And people are going to come back and pick on him because he couldn't do this or he couldn't make that throw. Completed 77% of his passes and had a 104 quarterback rating. Now, I know some of the things he does or happens to him might come back to haunt him at some point. But he seems to overcome those things. So I think you just need to let the quarterback grow a little bit and understand that he hasn't even finished 3 years in the National Football League. When Tony Romo finished 3 years in the National Football League, he hadn't even played a game yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you got to give it to Dak Prescott. You know, like I said, 455 yards passing, had a tremendous performance in that fourth quarter and that overtime period to help get the Cowboys that victory. And correct me if I'm wrong here, was it the third most passing yards in a game in Cowboys history? Is that correct? Is that what I remember?
That's exactly right, and he tied some guy named Troy Aikman.
Definitely joining great company right there. All right, let's get to another question. Let's go to Dean now. How do the Cowboys turn around their first half funk, and can it be fixed before the playoffs?
Well, one of the things that they have to do better, and I wouldn't call it a funk because they dominated the game. What happens is they're moving the ball, and then they're getting into first and goal, and they're not scoring touchdowns. And that shows up on the board. And I've always said, and I know these people that follow us have heard it before, the more field goals you kick, the closer you are to losing. Can't keep leaving 4 points on the board when you're first and goal. You know, they've had first and goal, I think, first and goal at the 4 3 times, first and goal at the 5, and they end up with field goals. That can't happen. You've got to score points. So if they score points in those situations, then, yeah, it won't look like a first-half funk because the yards and the points don't coincide. They have all these yards. They're moving the ball, dominating time of possession, but they're not turning those yards into the necessary points you should be turning them into. So they need to concentrate on doing better in first and goal situations and in red zone situations. You've got to be able to score touchdowns.
Now, Miggy, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I know the Cowboys are one win away from sealing that NFC East title. You never know what could happen in the final weeks of the regular season. And I say that when asking this next viewer question. He asked, which team would you not want to see in the playoffs if Dallas does make the playoffs? Again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself and automatically write the Cowboys in just because they're one win away.
Well, then let's keep assuming there, because I'm going to assume if they make the playoffs, it's going to be as the NFC East division winners. And then you would get a home game, and it depends on if you're the third seed, if you can catch the Bears one game better than the Cowboys, or are you the fourth seed? I think the team that I wouldn't want to well, I don't want to see Philadelphia again. Let's put it that way. But the team that's right in there right now that I wouldn't want to face would be Seattle. They've already played Seattle. I know it was pre-Amari Cooper, but their quarterback is playing well. He's a two-dimensional quarterback, run, throw. Their defense is playing well. Yeah, if you gave me my choice, I wouldn't pick Seattle.
All right, obviously a lot of injury news this week after that Philadelphia game and just going through the rest of the season. How about this question from Silly Man? What is keeping David Irving off the practice field?
Well, I think it's a twofold thing. I think one is the high ankle sprain, and those things are usually 6 weeks. So he's right about that 6-week point right now. And then I think he has had some more off-field interruptions with his family matters. So we'll see if he gets back this week and works his way back into practice and maybe be ready the following week. Same thing with Sean Lee. He's missed so much time. I think they're hopeful that he could work back into practice this week and then maybe play the next week, because normally when guys are out that long, they don't just practice them 1 or 2 times on a limited basis and then say, okay, go play. They usually do that 1 week, and then the next week practice them as if they are going to play to make sure they're ready and they don't go back to the trainers.
All right, let's go to a question now from Dustin, and I'll add on to his question as well. He asked, well, first off, I'll ask, what is the latest you're hearing about Zach Martin? And he asked, if it were up to you, I should say, would you let Martin play in his hometown, which is, of course, Indianapolis, and risk further damage, or should he sit the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think if you talk to Martin, I'm sure he's going to try to talk his way into playing just for that reason right there, that he wants to play in his hometown. I think he needs to rest. I know from experience that when you sprain an MCL, it takes a while for that ligament to regenerate. Normally for a professional athlete, they're out 2 to 4 weeks. And I don't mean out 4 weeks and you're playing with a brace on. I mean out 4 weeks, period. And he really hasn't taken any time off other than the time period between that last Thursday night game and then the next game. So he probably needs to rest. I'm sure that he's going to try to talk his way in. If they could win that game against the Colts, then by all means, you pull the plug and say, okay, you're not playing the last 2 games. We're in the playoffs. Let's get you healthy for the playoffs.
You know, I think it's safe to say that trade that brought Amari Cooper to the Dallas Cowboys is working out pretty well. We saw those 3 touchdown catches in that win over Philadelphia. To you, Miggy, since his acquisition, how has he helped this Cowboys offense, and how has he made a huge difference, just this Cowboys team overall?
Well, you know what? I remember when they made the trade, and Sanjay Lal, the Cowboys wide receiver coach, when asked, you know, what will be the biggest impact he makes on the team immediately, and he said his presence on the field. Just the being on the field and defenses knowing what he's capable of doing, he said that'll cause defenses to back off. We won't have as many people in the box. Other guys are going to get more one-on-one opportunities. Might be a little less blitzing. And he said, and then after that, it's going to have to be production. Well, I just figured out from a production standpoint, after these 6 games he's played, which, by the way, the Cowboys are 5-1. Only loss is the first game he participated in, the one against Tennessee. If you extrapolate his 6-game numbers over an entire season, 16 games, he would end up with somewhere around 112 catches for 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns. Would you take it? Yeah, I think you would. And you would say, I'll give up a first-round pick for that. So not only is his presence on the field helping him, but certainly the production, too, to take and also take away some attention from other guys. And if you look what happened on the game-winning touchdown against Philadelphia, the Eagles said, you know what? We're coming after you. All-out blitz. They set 7 guys at Dak. Ezekiel Elliott did a heck of a job picking up one of the blitzers that was coming free, and everybody else was in man coverage, and he didn't have much time to think, and that ball came out, and fortunately for them, it got tipped, and Cooper was able to grab it and go in for the winning touchdown.
Miggy, I love Jason Garrett's decision to go for it on 4th and 1. I know a lot of people may be hesitant with that call because if you don't get the conversion on 4th and 1, you give the ball back to the Eagles with about 2 minutes to go. But your offense is clicking. At that point, they had over 500 yards of offense. We know this Philly defense has been struggling as of late, and you give it to one of the best backs in the NFL in Ezekiel Elliott. Do you agree that that was the right move?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that's a funny thing, isn't it? Because against Houston, he got just criticized left and right for not going for it in on 4th down and punting. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And it was like, so now that he went for it, he's still going to get criticized? Are you serious? That's what you wanted him to do in Houston. And if they hadn't made it in Houston, they would have given the Texans the ball at about the 45, 47-yard line. They would have needed 20 yards to go kick a field goal. At least in this one, when he went for it, now think about it, the ball was at the 19-yard line. So if you gave him the ball at 19-yard line with 3 minutes to go, well, that's not quite the same thing. Plus, as you said, they were moving the football. To that point, if I remember correctly, they had gained already 550 yards in the game. 550. So now, you think they could have picked up one more? Sometimes you got to look at how your team's playing and the situation in the game, and it's not about being real bold and going for it or not going for it. Think back to the New Orleans game. I bet everybody was patting Sean Payton on the back when he was 4th and goal at the 1. He went for it, and they didn't get it, right? Didn't get it. And they ended up losing, what, 13-10? That field goal would have looked pretty good, right? So, again, there's a lot of second guessing going on, and unfortunately the people that do the second guessing aren't the ones that have to make that decision.
again, I'm glad they went for it on 4th and 1. Obviously paid off. Hopefully, the Cowboys can secure that NFC East title against the Colts this weekend. Miggy, as always, really appreciate it.
Glad to be with you. Thanks a lot.
All right, again, Cowboy fans, as we do every single week, make sure to keep sending us your questions using the hashtag AskMickey, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday, hopefully talking about the NFC East champion, Dallas Cowboys. We'll see you next time.